As you probably gathered from the title of this episode, we haven't had a chance to film or research anywhere specific this week. However, don't panic, as always on these sorts of occasions, we've dug deep into the leftover footage on our hard drive to bring you an assortment of bits and pieces that we could have used on previous episodes but didn't because they were either too boring or inappropriate or whatever. For example, a couple of weeks ago we mentioned that Squire Cunliffe, who allegedly murdered his wife after returning from an unsuccessful fox hunt, as you do if you're an inexcusable aristocrat, haunts Wycoller Hall. Initially we forgot about said haunting and had to crowbar it into the end credits, but it did get a mention, honest. What we forgot to mention altogether at the time, mainly because we didn't know about it until Deborah Contessa informed us, was Guy Trash, who sounds like the mealy-mouthed title character from some 1970s cop show, but is actually a giant spectral dog with glowing red eyes. Or possibly the ghost of a horse belonging to the previously mentioned murderous Squire Cunliffe. There's some debate about this. Whatever the case, Guy Trash has been known to prey on those wandering the lonely lane between Wycoller Hall and Height Lath. Exactly what it does to its victims when it preys on them, we honestly couldn't say, because nothing that we've read so far has bothered to mention it. Sticking with Wycoller Hall, however, we also have the legend of Black Bess, in which a pair of lovers were rudely interrupted by a woman dressed in black. Surprisingly, given the name, not horse-related this time. In one of the upper bedchambers at Wycoller Hall back in 1867. We're reusing quite a lot of old footage here. Hopefully it isn't too obvious. Said woman in black was believed to be the murdered wife of the previously mentioned Squire Cunliffe. We've got a bit of a ghost dynasty going on here. Another version of the Black Bess legend claims that one member of the Cunliffe family, nothing different there then, married a woman from the West Indies but grew bored with her on the way home and pushed her overboard. Allegedly, her ghost followed her husband home. Presumably she was a damn good swimmer. That's enough about Wycoller Hall for now. It's time to move on to St Michael's on Wire, which, like Wycoller Hall, we've covered before somewhere. However, a couple of weeks ago we finally managed to get inside the church while it was still daylight enough to film it, which is good because there are several interesting bits of history to look at inside St Michael's, such as this medieval Flemish roundel in the Butler Chapel. Part of a set originally, apparently. There's a couple more at Rawcliffe Hall where the Butler family once lived. Said roundel illustrates the astrological sign of Cancer, showing a couple shearing sheep in June. All very pastoral and summery and stuff. The columns holding up the roof of St Michael's Church are so ancient they're bent. The church itself dates back to about the 7th century, or something we probably read somewhere. There's a vicar's board displaying a list of incumbent vicars dating back to 1196, and part of a medieval mural which, according to experts who obviously have better eyesight than me, shows Jesus ascending into heaven, or at least it shows his feet, observed by the apostles. Check it out and let me know if you can see anything clearer than an indistinct smudge. It was at about this point that I realised we didn't have as much leftover footage on our hard drive as I'd originally thought, which is why we're struggling to find anything interesting to say about the bridge at the Glasson turnoff on the Lancaster Canal. Said bridge won some sort of award or other for being the best kept bridge at the junction of the Lancaster Canal and the Glasson branch, 1896 or something. You can see how much effort we've put into this week's episode, can't you? Because it's the first bridge on the Glasson branch, it's classified as bridge number 1. If I were you, I'd come back next week when we've pulled something better together. The Glasson branch follows 6 locks west to the canal basin, where eventually it empties into Glasson Dock and Morecambe Bay. Having navigated the half-dozen locks, no windlass required, The successful boater will be rewarded with some recycled footage of a shop, a pub, a church, a couple of small cranes and a sunken boat. For the more historically minded, the dock itself was completed in 1787 with a capacity to hold up to 25 merchant ships. It was connected to the canal in 1825 at an estimated cost of £34,608. It also frequently ends up closed whenever the sun comes out for longer than a fortnight, all of which we've covered before, but hopefully you've forgotten about it. Langdon Brook, I couldn't think of a segue, but I doubt that anybody's still watching this rubbish anyhow, so it doesn't really matter, is a watercourse in the Trough of Bowland, Lancashire, England. A tributary of the River Hodder, its source is near the summit of Hawthorne-Thwaite Fell, which has an elevation of 479 metres, or 1,572 feet, apparently. From there it flows down the fell's southern face before turning northeast for around 2.5 miles. At Sykes in Bowland Forest High it turns southeast for about 2 miles, joining the Hodder a short distance later, about 0.5 miles south of Dunsop Bridge. What do you mean I just copied all that from Wikipedia because Michelle couldn't be bothered conducting any research for this rubbish? There's no pleasing some people. Right, I've excavated some old USBs from the back of the wardrobe and dug out some more footage. I'm not sure what of. This might be a suspected Roman milestone just north of Garstang, and this appears to be some sort of derelict building stroke pile of rubble or other that probably had historical merit once, but I've honestly no idea what. And that just about wraps it up for this week. I'm not going to ask anybody to like or subscribe because, to be honest, that was probably the worst episode we've ever made. Which just goes to show how useless these films are without Michelle's research or Jeanie McIntosh's transport. However, you might want to check out the next film when it's posted, because no matter what the subject is or how badly made it is, it's bound to be better than this one.